folks. Now, if you're looking to upgrade your speakers and you don't want to spend a mint, but you have a requirement for that excellent sound, well, I have a set of speakers that you might want to consider. They're the Focal Theva, and they are amazing, and you can get them at a steal. Stick around, I'll tell you all about them. So today we're going to be talking speakers, right? And we're going to be talking about these Thevas from Focal, which is absolutely one of my favorite speaker brands. You can see these beside my mainstays, my Stark Sound HCH5 towers, for a size comparison, right? We're going to talk about these Thevas, which are an amazing set of speakers for the money, right? So you're looking at $5,100 for the two towers, which are the Atmos enabled version. So they got the speaker on top, and you'll see that as we talk about the speaker, a center channel, and then two on-wall surrounds. Now, there are other models of speaker that are available. There's a smaller tower. This is the bigger one. This is the number 3D. So there's a number 3 that doesn't have the D, which is the Dolby Atmos. So this is the 3D, bigger one. There's a smaller tower. There's on-wall surrounds. There are bookshelf speakers. There is the center channel. And there's also a Theva subwoofer, which we will not be testing. So I'm going to be running my per listens amongst other subwoofers in this test for my listening. But these are the big boys right here that we're going to be checking out today. And I think before we get to a discussion of the sound, let's talk a little bit about the speakers themselves. I'll go through the different pieces that we have, and then we'll get down to the nitty-gritty of what I think about the speaker. Let's take a close look at the Focal 3D, the number 3D, the Dolby Atmos version of this tower, right? So these are going to be your left and rights in this system that I'm checking out, and these are pretty cool. Let's look closer. The first thing we'll notice here is that there is a removable magnetic grill on the front. We can get rid of that guy. And then on the top, there's a grill, but it's not magnetic. It's got these little stoppers on it and just sits up there to cover the Atmos speaker. But it doesn't click on with magnetics. This is a three-way design. You've got a 1-inch inverted dome tweeter, and this is a aluminum magnesium mixed tweeter. So it's not beryllium like you find on the higher end stuff, but they say it's derived from that technology, whatever that means. You get the 1-inch tweeter there. You've got 3 6.5-inch drivers, and these bottom two, I believe, are your bass drivers. And this is bass reflex, by the way. And then you've got a mid-range of the same size. The mid-range and the bass drivers are made out of what is called a slate fiber material. And this is like a mix of plastics and recycled carbon fiber that gives a great rigidity and all the other properties necessary for these things to sound as good as they do. And then, as I said before, this is bass reflex, and we'll see that on the back. Now, up here on the top, we've got your Dolby Atmos speaker. This is a 5-inch full range speaker, so it's not like a tweeter in there or anything. It's just the one driver, and it has these guides that help send the sound in the right direction. How effective or not, it's kind of hard to tell. I didn't want to rip this off to see the before and after, so to speak. However, I was getting good height effects for a bouncy house speaker, as I call it, right? Because this will send the sound from the speaker to the ceiling, as opposed to like a ceiling mount like this guy right here, to give you the Atmos effect. But it is effective for what it is, and for those that don't want to install speakers in the ceiling, I think this is a really great way to go to get that Atmos effect. Some other details on this guy. So for a pair, you're looking at about $3,000. You might be able to find those on sale. Again, 1-inch tweeter, 6.5-inch mid-range, dual 6.5-inch mid-bass drivers or bass drivers. You're going to get down to about 48 hertz on these at a -3. And then they say the functional range is down to 39 hertz at -6. So you'll need a subwoofer for sure, but you need subwoofers for everything. They come in 3 different colors. And I think they are really nice looking speakers, right? They definitely have that Focal look. And then if you get down here to the bottom, they have the little foot where it kind of is offset and gives it a little angle back. So looks nice. And there are also spikes as well if you want to use that. I never use the spikes though. But a nice solid speaker here in the $3,000 price range. On the rear of the tower, you're going to come down, you're going to find your bass reflex port here, but then you'll find 2 sets of binding posts, right? This bottom set is for your main speaker. The top set is for your Atmos, because obviously your Atmos is going to have a different input than you have for your left or right, whichever this tower is doing, right? So you need the 2 different sets so you can have those signals independently routed up to the speakers that they're going to power. Now let's talk about the Theva Center, and that's what it's called, the Theva Center. This has the same mid-bass drivers as you found in the towers, the 6.5-inch sealed box, unlike the tower, which is bass reflex. The tweeter is the same aluminum magnesium 1-inch that you have from the tower, so you get that same timbre, sound timbre, as you pan across the front soundstage. This goes down to 59 hertz at -3, and maximum extension is down to 51 at, I guess, -6. Same sensitivity as the towers, which is 91 decibels at 1 watt, 1 meter. Price point on this is $700 for the unit. Similar to the tower, you've got magnetic grille that clips on the front like that. Really nice, snappy. On the rear, you've got a set of single binding posts that are quite nice, right? Nice and chunky, as you can say. 5-way binding posts, so you can put in your banana plugs, you can put in raw, you can put in spades. It'll all work out there for you. Now let's talk about the Theva Surround, right? So Focal has both a bookshelf version and then this on-wall version that you can purchase to round out your system. We're obviously looking at the sealed on-wall. These are $700 a piece, so about the same price as your center. Of course, you need 2 of these or more, depending on how many channels you're going to have. They have the magnetic grille, same as the other speakers. Also the same slate fiber mid-bass driver, 1-inch aluminum magnesium tweeter. On the back, you'll see there's a keyhole mount here, so you can get this on the wall with a single mounting point. It's got some nice little rubber feet to keep from marring up your wall. Now the actual binding post system here is a little bit different than the others, so there's a different kind of part. They look different, but they function the same. Additionally, these are 89 decibel sensitive at 1 watt, 1 meter, and they play down to about 70 hertz at the low end. So these go down, I guess, the least of all of the speakers, so you'll want to make sure that you're taking advantage of your crossover in your processor or your AVR for these. Now, before we get into the sound discussion, let's talk a little bit about our source and signal chain here. So everything is running through a turn-off altitude 16, and amplification is coming from 2 bridge channels on an amplitude 16, so both the left and right as well as the center all get 2 bridge channels there for plenty of juice. Then we've got a Kaleidoscape Strato S on the video services, and then for audio, the actual processor itself is a Roon target that we can use Cobuzz with. So that's the main chain, so to speak, for the audio that we're using to test these speakers with. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about how this thing sounded, right? So, I am using a set of $5,100 speakers on, I don't know, 30-something thousand, $40,000 worth of electronics and other gear in the theater, right? So there's a bit of a electronics versus speaker mismatch, but I will say that these speakers are keeping up pretty well, particularly for the price point, right? So this isn't a bargain basement kind of speaker by any stretch of the imagination, right? These are Focal, and you get Focal quality, and you also get the next important thing. Probably the most important thing is you get that Focal sound signature, right? So they sound like Focal speakers to me. They have that Focal high end, maybe not as forward or as crisp or some people might say is hard as other Focal that are running the beryllium tweeters, but it does still have that same kind of presence. But where these speakers really stand out is in what I would call the mid bass, low end bass, but not super low and definitely not subsonic. So, you know, the speakers only play as low as they play, but as they approach, you know, kind of where they fall off at, you know, they are very authoritative. So for folks that want to run this in a non-subwoofer system, I would say that this is a really good choice, right? The left and right really can push out some bass in a non-subwoofer environment. Now, if you are running an AVR or a processor and you've got these crossed over and subs handling that, then that won't necessarily be something that plays as a strength in these speakers. But in the environment where you're going to just take a couple of towers in the center and the surrounds, hook those up to your television, I think you're going to be really impressed by kind of the presence that these things put out. Now, thinking of movies is only one piece of the puzzle. Now, it's a very important piece of the puzzle, and it's really the thrust of the video. But let's also think about this in two-channel mode, right? So if you just take the left and right, the Theva number 3s, the Ds, and unhook the Ds, right? So you got no Atmos, and just use these as stereo speakers, they bring, again, that Focal sound. Now, some people are like, oh, you can't use speakers for home theater for two-channel. You absolutely can. And in this instance, I think you can do it quite successfully. Now, are they as good as the higher-end Focal speakers? No, obviously not, right? You know, as you move up through the line, things do get better. There's better technology, and that equates out into your experience, right? You have bigger speakers with better bass response. But I think for a person that's looking at this $3,000 price range, that can't get to that $5,000 range, because once you hit $5,000, the world kind of blows up and there are lots and lots of options that will be superior to this $3,000 set of speakers. But in this $3,000 range, you're going to get a ton of value, and you can listen to two-channel music without any subwoofer quite well in these speakers and have a really, really enjoyable experience. All right, so that's going to bring us to the end. I do recommend these for both music and home theater use. And then as that, you've got the 3Ds, the towers with the Atmos bouncy speaker. If you want that 3D light Atmos experience, I would say absolutely a good way to go for those that are wanting to dip their toes in before they start cutting holes and running cables up top. So a bonus there, these speakers are available in the non-D version. So for folks that don't want to deal with that, then you don't have to, right? Very, very acceptable either way. Again, $5,100 all in for the surround sound system with 2 Atmos channels. Man, getting that Focal sound is hard to go wrong with these speakers. All right, so thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop those down below. There'll be another video that appears. Check that one out. I think you'll like it as much as you like this one. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.